Vaamahe Kavim Kavinam Upavashravastramam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanaspata Anushrunnoti Visidhasan Om Mahaganadipataye Namaha Om Mahaganadipataye Namaha Om Mahaganadipataye Namaha Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Om Keshwaya Namaha Om Narayana Om Madhvaya Namaha Om Govindaya Namaha Om Vishnuvaya Namaha Matsudaya Namaha Trivikramaya Namaha Vamaraya Namaha Sridharaya Namaha Rishikeshaya Namaha Padmanabhaya Namaha Damodaraya Namaha Saya Namaha Vasudevaya Namaha Pradyumnaya Namaha Aniruddhaya Namaha Purushottamaya Namaha Dokshaya Namaha Narasimhaya Namaha Achyutaya Namaha Janardhanaya Namaha Upendraya Namaha Hare Namaha Sri Krishna Namaha. Dear friends, we came to the 24th chapter of 11th canto in Bhagavata Purana of Vedavyasa Maharshi. In the 24th chapter, Sankhya Yoga has been described, but this has been already described to Devahuti in Kapila Gita. In this chapter, Lord Krishna gives instruction how the bewilderment of the mind can be dispelled by the science of Sankhya Yoga. Herein, the Supreme Lord again imparts Uddhava instructions about the analysis of material nature. By assimilating this knowledge, the spirit soul can drive away his confusion based on the false dualities. In the beginning of creation, the seer and the seen are one and indistinguishable. In the beginning of the creation, the seer and the seen. Seer is the person who is seeing it. Seen is the scenery, what you are seeing is seen, are one and indistinguishable. This supreme absolute truth, one without the second and inaccessible to words and mind. This supreme absolute truth, one without a second and inaccessible to words and mind, then separates into two: the seer, which means consciousness or personality, and the seen, which means substance or nature. The material nature, which comprises the three modes of matter. Material nature, which comprises the three modes of matter, is the three modes is Sattvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika. A matter is agitated by the controlling male factor. Agitated by the controlling male factor. The Mahat Tattva then becomes manifest together with the energies of consciousness and activity. From these come the principle of false ego in its three aspects of goodness, passion, and ignorance. That is Sattvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika. From these come the principle of false ego in its three aspects of goodness is Sattvika, passion is Rajasika, and ignorance is Tamasika. From false ego in the mode of ignorance arise 15 subtle forms of sense perception, followed by the 15 physical elements. From false ego in the mode of passion come the 10 senses, and from false ego in the mode of goodness come the mind and the 11 demigods, 11 gods who preside over the senses. By the conglomeration of all these three elements grows the universal egg, in the midst of which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the creating Lord of the universe, takes up residence in the role of undwelling supersoul. From the navel of this ultimate creator comes the lotus upon which Brahma takes birth. Lord Brahma, invested with the mode of passion, executes austerities by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. And on the strength of these penances, he is able to create all the planets of the universe. The region of heaven is meant for the gods, other gods, and that of inner space of ghostly spirits, and that of the earth for human beings and others. In the region above these three planetary systems are the places of advanced sages, and in the lower worlds are those of the demons, naga, serpents, and so forth. The goals as achieved by activities based on the three modes of material nature are all within the three mortal worlds. Mortal worlds. The destinations of the yoga, severe austerity, and the renounced order of life are the worlds known as Mahar, Janas, Tapas, and Satya. The destinations of the yoga, severe austerity, and the renounced order of life are the worlds known as Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka. These are the four lokas. The goal of devotional service for the Supreme Personality of Lord Krishna or Vishnu, on the other hand, is the lotus feet of the personality of the Godhead is abode Vaikuntha. This universe of material action and reaction is constituted under the control of time and the three modes of material nature. Moreover, whatever exists in this universe is simply the product of the combination of material nature and our Lord. Moreover, whatever exists in the universe is simply the product of the combination of material nature and the Lord. In the same way, the creation proceeds gradually from the one and supremely subtle to the multitudinous and very gross. The process of annihilation proceeds from the grossest to the subtle manifestation of nature, leaving only the eternal spiritual substance. This ultimate soul remains situated within himself alone and without end. The mind of a person who meditates on these ideas does not become bewildered by material dualities. This science of Sankhya, narrated in the alternating sequences of creation and annihilation, serves to cut off all doubts and bondages. Lord Sri Krishna says, now I shall describe to you the science of Sankhya, Sankhya Yoga, which has been perfectly established by ancient authorities. By understanding this science, a person can immediately give the illusion of material duality. This chapter describes the Sankhya system in which the difference between the matter and spirit is elaborately explained. By hearing this knowledge, one can easily separate the mind from the material contamination and fix it on the spiritual platform of Krishna consciousness. Sankhya philosophy system mentioned here is that presented by Lord Krishna in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and not the atheistic Sankhya presented later by materials and Mayavadis. The material elements which emanate from the potency of the Lord evolve the progressive sequence. One should not foolishly think that such evolution begins from an original material element without the assistance of the Lord. This speculative theory is generated from the false ego of conditioned life and constitutes gross ignorance, unacceptable to the personality of Godhead and his followers. Originally, during the Krita Yuga, when all men were very expert in spiritual discrimination, and also previous to that, during the period of annihilation, the seer existed alone, not different from the seen object. Krita Yuga is the first age, also known as Satya Yuga, in which knowledge being perfect is not different from its object. In modern society, knowledge is highly speculative and constantly changing. There is often a vast difference between the people's theoretical ideas and actual reality. In Satya Yuga, however, people are Viveka Nipunaha, are expert in intelligent discrimination, and thus there is no difference between their vision and reality. In Satya Yuga, the population is self-realized. In Satya Yuga, the population in general is self-related, self-realized, seeing everything as the potency of the Supreme Personality of Lord Vishnu. They do not artificially create duality between themselves and other living entities. This is further aspect of the oneness of Satyayuga. At the time of annihilation, annihilation, everything merges to rest within the Lord. At the time of also, there is no difference between the Lord who becomes the only seer and the objects of the knowledge. There's only one Lord who is same as the seer and seen, who becomes the only seer and the objects of knowledge which are contained within the Lord. These liberated living entities in the eternal spiritual world are never subject to such merging but remain forever undisturbed in their spiritual forms because they are voluntarily one with the Lord in love. Their abode is never annihilated. That one absolute truth, remaining free from material dualities and inaccessible to ordinary speech and mind, divided himself into two categories: the material nature and the living entities who are trying to enjoy the manifestations of that nature. Both material nature and a living entity are potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of these two categories, the manifestations, one is material nature, which embodies both subtle causes and manifest products of matter. The other is the conscious living entity designated as the enjoyer. When material nature was agitated by my glands, the three material modes, goodness, sattvika, passion, rajasika, and ignorance, tamasika, became manifest to fulfill the pending desires of the conditioned souls. From these modes arose the primeval sutra, along with the Mahat Tattva. By the transformation of Mahat Tattva was generated the false ego, the cause of the living entities' bewilderment. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Sutra is the first transformation of material nature, and that manifests the potency of activity and is accompanied by the Mahat Tattva, which is endowed with the potency of knowledge. In the material world, one is real knowledge is covered by fruitive activity and mental speculation. As one devotional service to the Lord slackens, these two tendencies grow automatically, just as diminishing of light automatically brings an increase in darkness. False ego, which is the cause of physical sensation, the senses, and the mind, encompasses both spirit and matter, manifest in three varieties: in the modes of goodness, sattviguna, in the passion, rajasika, and ignorance, tamasika. From false ego, in the mode of ignorance, came the subtle physical perceptions, from which the gross elements were generated. From false ego, in the mode of passion, came the senses, and from false ego, in the mode of goodness, arose the 11 gods, 11 other gods. From false ego, in the middle of ignorance, the sound is generated along with the sense of hearing to receive it, and in the sky as its medium. Next, the sensation of touch, air, and the sense of touch are generated. And thus, from subtle to gross, all of the elements and their perceptions are generated. The senses, because they are busy, engaged in the activity, are created from the false ego in the mode of passion. From false ego in the goodness come even. From the false ego in the goodness come 11 gods, the devices, the deities of the directions. 11 gods. The wind, the sun, Varuna, the Ashwini deities, Agni, Indra, Upendra, Mitra, Brahma, and Chandra. From false ego in the goodness, Sattvic Guna, come 11 gods. Impelled by me, all the three elements combined to function in an orderly fashion and together gave birth to the universal egg, which is my excellent place of residence. Impelled by me, all the elements combined to function in an orderly fashion and together gave birth to the universal egg, which is my excellent place of residence. I myself appeared within that egg, which was floating in the casual water, and from my navel arose the universal lotus, the birthplace of self-born Brahma. Lord Brahma, the soul of the universe, being endowed with the mode of passion, performed great austerities by my mercy and thus created the three planetary divisions called Bhur, Bhuvar, and Suvar, along with their presiding deities. Heaven was established as the residence of the other gods, Bhuvarloka as that of ghostly spirits, and earth system as the pure human beings and other mortal creations. Those mystics who strive for liberation are promoted beyond these three divisions. Lord Brahma created the nations of the three worlds are arranged as the corresponding relay actions for different kinds of work performed within the modes of nature. By mystic yoga, great austerities, and a renounced order of life, the pure destinations of Mahorloka, Janaloka, and Tapoloka and Satyaloka are created. But by devotional yoga, one achieves my transcendental abode also. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that the word tapasaha in the verse refers to austerities performed by brahmacharis and vanaprasthas. A brahmachari who practices celibacy perfectly in some particular stage of his life achieves Muharloka, and one who perfectly practices lifelong celibacy achieves Janaloka. By perfect execution of Vanaprastha, the one may achieve Tapoloka, and one in the announced order of life goes to Satyaloka. These different destinations certainly depends on one's seriousness in the yoga system. In the third canto of the Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma explains to the demigods, the inhabitants of Vaikuntha travel in their airplane made of lapis and lazuli. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha travel in their airplanes made of lapis and lazuli, emeralds and gold. Although crowded by their consorts who have large hips and beautiful smiling faces, they cannot be estimated in passion by their Thus, in the spiritual world, the kingdom of God, the inhabitants have absolutely no desire for personal satisfaction, since they are completely satisfied in love of Godhead. Because they only think of the Lord's pleasure, there is no possibility of cheating, anxiety, lust, disappointment, or so on. As a result of fruitive work have been arranged within this world by me, the Supreme Creator, acting as the free force of time. Thus, one sometimes rises up towards the surface of this mighty river, of the modes of river. Thus, one sometimes rises up towards the surface of this mighty river, of the modes of nature, and sometimes again submerged. Whatever features visibly exist within this world, small or great, thin or stout, certainly contain both the material nature and its enjoyer, the spirit of soul. Gold, gold and earth are originally existing as ingredients. From gold, one may fashion golden ornaments, such as bracelets, earring, and from each one may fashion clay pots or snacks, saucers. The original ingredients, gold and earth, exist before the products made from them. And when the products are eventually destroyed, the original ingredients, gold and earth, will remain. Thus, since the ingredients are present in the beginning and at the end, they must also be present in the middle phase. Taking the horn of a particular product to which, thus, since the ingredients are present in the beginning and at the end, they must also be present in the middle. Taking the form of a particular product to which we assign for convenience a particular name, such as bracelet, earrings, pot, or saucer. We can therefore understand that since the ingredient cause exists before the creation of a product and after the product's destruction, the same ingredient can cause must be present during the manifest phase, supporting the product as they pass may be. The Lord here explains that the original cause is certainly present in its effect. The Lord here explains that the original cause certainly present in its effect, citing the example of the gold and clay functioning as the casual ingredients of many different products which gold and clay contain to be present. For example, for convenience, we say assign different names to temporary products, although their essential nature continue to be that of the ingredient, that is the gold, and not of the temporary product. A material object itself, composed of an essential ingredient, creates another material object through the mistransformation. Thus, one created object becomes the cause and the basis of another created object. The particular thing may be thus be called real, in that it possesses the basic nature of the another object that constitutes its origin and final stage. The material universe may be considered real, having nature as its original ingredient and final state. Lord Mahavishnu is the resting place of nature, which becomes manifest by the power of time. Thus, nature, the Almighty Vishnu, and time are not different from me, the Supreme Absolute Truth. The material nature is the energy of the Lord. Mahavishnu is his plenary portion. The nature of the Almighty Vishnu and time are not different from me, the Supreme Absolute Truth. Material nature is the energy of the Lord. Mahavishnu is his plenary portion, and time represents the Lord's activity. In this way, time and nature are always subservient to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who creates, maintains, and annihilates. All that exist through the agency of his potency and plenary portion. In other words, Lord Krishna is the absolute truth because he contains all existence within himself. As long as the Supreme Personality of Godhead continues to glance upon nature, the material world continues to exist, perpetually manifesting through procreation, the great and variegated flow of universal creation. Although the Mahatattva, impelled by the force of time, is the ingredient cause of this world, is clearly explained here that the Supreme Lord is personally the only ultimate cause of all that exists. Time and nature are powerless to act without the glance of the personality of Godhead. He creates unlimited material variety for the sense gratification of the conditioned soul. The Lord, Supreme Personality of Lord, is personally the only ultimate cause of all that exist. Time and nature are powerless to act without the glance of the personality of Godhead. He creates unlimited material variety for the sense gratification of the conditioned souls who try to enjoy life as children. The Lord is personally the only ultimate cause of all that exist. Time and nature are powerless to act without glance of personality of Godhead. He creates unlimited material variety for this gratification of the conditioned souls. We try to enjoy life as the children of particular parents and as the parents' particular children throughout the 8,400,000 species of life. I am the basis of the universal form, Lord Krishna says, which displays endless variety through the repeated creation and maintenance and destruction of the planetary system, originally containing within itself all the planets in their dormant stage. My universal form manifests the varieties of created existence by arranging the coordinated combination of 5 elements. According to Sri Sridhara Swami, the word Maya refers to the Lord in his form of eternal time. At the time of annihilation, the mortal body of the living being becomes merged into the food. At the time of annihilation, the material body of the living being becomes merged into the food. Food merges into the grains, and the grains merge back into the earth. Earth merges into its subtle sensation, fragrance. Fragrance merges into water, and water further merges into the that taste merges into fire. Water further merges into its own quality taste. That taste merges into fire, which merges into form. Form merges into the touch, and touch merges into the ether. Ether finally merges into the sensation of the sound. The senses all merge into their own origins, the presiding God, and they, O gentle Uddhava, merge into the controlling mind, which itself merges into the false ego in the mode of goodness. Sound becomes one with the false ego in the mode of ignorance. And all the powerful false ego, the first of all the physical elements, merges into the total nature. The total material nature, the primary repository of the 3 basic modes, dissolves into the modes. These modes of nature then merge into the unmanifest form of the nature, and that the unmanifest form merges into time. Time merges into the Supreme Lord, present in the form of the omniscient Mahapurusha, the original activator of all living beings, the original of the God, the origin of the modes of nature, then merge into the unmanifest form of the nature, and that the unmanifest form merges into time. The time merges into the Supreme Lord, present in the form of the omniscient Mahapurusha, the original activator of all living beings. The origin of all life merges into Lord Krishna or Vishnu, the unborn Supreme Soul, who remains alone, established in himself. It is from him that all creation and annihilation are manifested. The annihilation of the material world is the reversal of the process of creation, and ultimately everything is merged to the rest within the Supreme Lord, who remains full in his absolute position. Just as rising sun removes the darkness of the sky, similarly, this scientific knowledge of cosmic annihilation removes all illusory duality from the mind of the from the mind of the serious student. Even if illusion sometimes somehow enters his heart, it can be remain there forever. It is it is the brilliant sun removes all darkness from the sky, a clear understanding of the knowledge spoken by Lord Krishna to Uddhava removes all the ignorance concocted by the material mind. One will then no longer accept the material body as the self, even if such illusion temporarily manifests within one's consciousness. It will be driven away by this resurgence of one's spiritual knowledge. Thus I, the perfect seer of everything material and spiritual, have spoken this knowledge of Sankhya, which destroys the illusion of doubt of scientific analysis of creation and annihilation. Lord Sri Krishna has explained that the material mind accepts and rejects many different concepts of life, generating the innumerable false arguments about the actual process of perfection. But a person who takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality Godhead can see everything with clear intelligence. One who understands how the Supreme Lord creates and annihilates can be liberated from the material bondage and devote himself to the eternal service to the God Krishna. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to the 11th canto, 24th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Philosophy of Sankhya. In the next chapter, the 25th chapter, the three modes of nature and beyond. To establish the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this chapter describes the various functional manifestations of the three modes of goodness, passion, ignorance, that is Sattvika Guna, Rajasika Guna, and Tamasika Guna, which arise in the mind. Control of mind, control of the senses, tolerance, and so forth are manifestations of the unmixed mode of goodness, desire, goodness, unmixed mode of goodness. Desire, endeavor, false pride, and so on are manifestations of the unmixed mode of fashion, and anger, greed, and bewilderment are among the functions of the unmixed mode of importance. In the mixture of three modes, we found the concept of I and my behavior in accordance with this mentality by body, mind, words. Adherence to the principles of religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification, and the fixed pursuit of one's occupational duty for material interest. A person whose character is the mode of goodness worships Lord Hari in a spirit of devotion without regard to profit. So the one who is in Sattvika Guna, the devotee who is in Sattvika Guna, is going to worship Lord Hari in a spirit of devotion without regard to any idea of profit, what comes out of it. On the other hand, one who hankers after the fruits of worship of the Lord, passionate by nature, and one who desires violence is the mode of ignorance. On the other hand, one devotee who anchors after the fruits of worship, the Lord, is passionate by the nature. And one who desires violence is the mode of ignorance, the tamasaguna. These modes of goodness, passion, ignorance are present in the infinitesimal living entity, whereas the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to the three modes of material nature, the substance, place, and the result of activity, along with the time, the knowledge underlying action, the activity itself, the performance, his faith, his level of awareness, his spiritual progress, and his destination after death, all partake of the three modes and manifest variously in terms of distinctions and hierarchies. But objects related to the Supreme Personality of personality, places connected with him, happiness based on him, the mode, the time occupied in his worship, knowledge related to him, work offered to him, the performer of work who acts under his shelter, faith in his devotional service, progress towards the spiritual realm, and the destination of the Supreme Lord's personal abode or transcend the material modes. There are many different destinations and conditions of the life for the spirit soul within the cycle of material existence. These are all based on the modes of nature and the modes of severeness. These are all based on the modes of nature and the fruitive activities which are governed by the modes. It's only by practicing the yoga of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord that one can conquer the three modes. Sattvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika Guna, all it can be overruled by your determination of mind, which arise originally from the mind. After obtaining a human body which has the potential for developing the knowledge and realization, a person who is intelligent should renounce association with the three modes of nature and then worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. First, by increasing the mode of goodness, one can defeat passion and ignorance. After obtaining the human body, which has the potential for developing the knowledge and realization, a person who is intelligent should renounce association with the three modes of nature and then worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Should renounce the association with the three modes of nature. Renouncing the three modes of nature is not easy. You need to have a very strong, powerful decision-making mind, because you're refusing the Sattvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika and trying to achieve Shuddha Sattva beyond that three. First of increasing the mode of goodness, one can defeat passion and ignorance. Then one can conquer material goodness by evolving his consciousness to the platform of transcendence. At that time, he becomes entirely liberated from the material modes, give up his subtle body, the material mind, intelligence, and false ego, and attains the association of the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. By the shattering of this subtle covering, the living entity is able to come face to face with Supreme Lord and thus achieve absolute fulfillment of his grace. In the next chapter, Pururavas Vairagya Ukti. In the 26th chapter, Lord Krishna explains how unfavorable association is a threat to one's position in devotional service and how by associating with saintly persons, one can attain the highest platform of devotion. The jiva who has received a human body, which is in itself most conducive toward achieving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jiva who has received a human body, which is in itself most conducive towards achieving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who has situated himself in the duties of devotional service to the Lord, becomes capable of realizing Him, the very identity of spiritual bliss. Such a person, fully dedicated to the Supreme Personality, is liberated from the influence of Maya. Even while continuing to reside in this world, created by the illusion, he is totally untouched by it. Such a person, fully dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, is liberated from the influence of Maya, even while continuing to reside in this world. Created by illusion, he is totally untouched by it. Those souls, on the other hand, who are bound up by Maya are devoted only to their beliefs and genitals. They are impure, and by associating with them, one will fall down into the dark pit of the ignorance. The Emperor Pururava, who was bewildered by the association of the heavenly lady Urvasi, later became renounced after being separated from her. The Emperor Pururava, who has bewildered by the association of the heavenly lady Urvasi, later became renounced after being separated from her. He thus sang a song expressing his contempt of womanly connection. He described that persons who are attached to the body of a woman or a man who is simply a mass of skin, meat, blood, sinew, brain, tissue, marrow, and bones are not much different from worms. What is the worth of the education, austerity, renunciation, reception of the Vedas, solitary living, and learned men should distrust their six mental enemies headed by lust? What is the worth of the education, austerity, renunciation, reception of the Vedas, solitary living, and silence of one whose mind becomes stolen away by the body of a woman? Learned men should distrust their sexual mental enemies, headed by lust, and thus avoid associating with women or with men who are controlled by women. After declaring these facts, King Pururava, now freed from the illusion of material existence, attained realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form as the indwelling Super Soul. After declaring these facts, King Pururava, now freed from the illusion of material existence, attained realization of the Supreme Personality of God, Vishnu, in his form as the indwelling Supersoul. In conclusion, one who is intelligent should give up bad association and let himself become attracted to the company of saintly persons of satsanga. By their transcendental instructions, the saintly devotees of the Lord can break the false attachments of one's mind. Real saints are always liberated and devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In their association, there are constant discussions about the Supreme Lord, by serving whom the Spirit and completely eradicate his material sins and obtains pure devotional service by accompanying with satsanga. And one gains the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the original ocean of unlimited perfect qualities. What else remains to be gained? Then he will attain Lord Krishna in Vaikuntha Loka. When the such devotees shackles all the material ideas and concentrate on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna or Vishnu, they are the winners. One gains the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the original ocean of unlimited perfect qualities. What else remains to be gained? You don't need to gain anything else once you attained Vaikuntha Loka. We'll go to the chapter 27th. We have reached the chapter 27th, the Lord Krishna's instructions in the process of deity worship. This is a very important chapter in the Bhagavath Purana, because Lord Krishna here explains to Uddhava how to do the process of deity worship, idol worship in the temple or in the prayer room, how to do it. That's what Lord Krishna is describing. This is a very auspicious chapter, very important chapter. Let us go and read this now. In this chapter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead explains the process of Karma Yoga, Kriya Yoga. In this chapter, Lord Krishna explains the process of Kriya Yoga or deity worship. Worshipping the deity form of the Supreme Lord automatically brings purity and satisfaction to the mind. It is true, when once we do the deity worship in the temple, we feel happy and satisfied. Thus, it is the source of all desirable gains. If a person has no engagement in deity service, he will simply remain attracted to materialistic sense gratification, and he will give no hope of giving up bad association. The personality of Godhead has given instruction among the regulations of the Sattvata scriptures, Shattvata scriptures, on the process of worshipping him as the bona fide deity. Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Vyasa, and all other sages have recommended this process described by the Lord as the most perfectly beneficial for all the occupational classes and the spiritual orders of the human society, including even the women and Shudras. There are three varieties of Archana: deity worship based on either the original Vedas, the secondary Tantras, or the combination of these. The deity image, the ground, the fire, the sun, the water, and the heart of the worshipper are all true locations of the deity's presence. The deity form to be worshipped may be constructed of any one of the eight substances, any eight of the substances. The deity can be constructed by a stone or a wood, metal, clay, paint, and sand drawn up on the ground, the mud, the mind, or jewels. These categories are further subdivided into two: temporary and permanent. So there are eight substances they can create deity. One is the stone, one is the wood, third was the metal, fourth is the clay, fifth is the painting, like a photograph, sand drawn up on the ground, the mind and jewels, mind or jewels, the mind and jewels. These categories are further divided into two: temporary or permanent. The details of the worshipping process are as follows. The devotee should bathe both physically and by chanting mantras. So yesterday, a devotee has to take a bath in the morning, and while taking bath also he can chant mantras, like what I do, chanting the 24 names of Lord: Gange Yamuna Cheva Godavari Saraswati Narmada Devi Chandu. These are the auspicious rivers names and auspicious names, 24 names of Vishnu we can chant. And then he should perform the utterance of Gayatri at the prescribed junction of the day. So he should perform the Gayatri sadhana at the junction of the day. Junction of the day is night and the morning. Junction is called Pratah Sandhya. And the junction of midday, morning and afternoon is midday, is called another junction. Madhyanika it's called. And the junction between the sunset time, before the sunset and during the sunset and after the sunset is called Sandhya, Sayam Sandhya. Then he should present clothing and ornaments, sprinkle water on the vessels and other paraphernalia to be used in the worship of the deity, and offer water for bathing the deity's feet, padya, argya, water for washing his mouth, fragrant oils, like incense, lamps, flowers, and food preparations. After this, one should worship the Lord's personal servants and bodyguards, his consort energies, and spiritual masters by chanting their respective Mula mantras. The worshipper should recite prayers from the Puranas and other sources like Suktas, Purushukta, Sri Sukta, and offer obeisances flat on the ground, beg for benediction, and place in himself the remnants of the Lord's garlands. Included in this method of deity worship, are the proper installation of the transcendental deity by the constructing a fine temple and also the conducting a processions and other festivals. By worshipping Lord Sri Hari with unconditional devotion in this manner, one gains access to the pure loving service to his lotus feet. But if one steals property that has been given as a charity to the deity or brähmanas, whether given by himself or by others, he will have to take his next birth as a stool-eating worm. This is a very important warning of this chapter to all the devotees. But if one steals the property that has been given as a charity to the deity or the brähmanas, whether given by himself or by others, he will have to take his next birth as a stool-eating worm. Uddhava Vacha. The chapter starts, the details of the chapter starts now. Uddhava Vacha. Kriya yogam samachaksha bhavadharadhanam prabhu yasmatvayim yatarchinti swatutam swatvarshabha swatvarshabha. This is the first sloka of this chapter. Uddhava is asking, my dear Lord, O Master of the devotees, please explain to me the prescribed method of worshipping you in your deity form. What are the qualifications of those devotees who worship the deity? On what basis is such worship is established? And what is the specific method of worship? In addition to performing their prescribed duties, devotees of the Lord engage in regulated worship of the Lord in his deity forum in the temple. Such worship acts powerfully to cleanse the heart of both the lust to enjoy one's material body and the material family attachment that results directly from this lust. To be effective, however, the process of deity worship must be performed in the authorized manner and way. Therefore, Uddhava now inquires from the Lord Krishna about this subject. Etadvadanti munayo muhur neshrayassunram narado bhagavan vyasa acharyo angirasa sutaha. After the great sages repeatedly declare that such worship brings the greatest benefit possible in human life. This is the opinion of Narada Muni, the great Vyasavarshi, and my own spiritual master Brihaspati. Uddhava is telling like this to the Lord Krishna. All the great sages repeatedly declare that such worship brings the greatest benefit possible in human life. This is the opinion of Narada Muni, the great Vyasa Maharshi, and my own spiritual master Brihaspati. Brihaspati is Devaguru and he is the spiritual master for Uddhava. So we came to the sloka number 3 and 4. Nistrantate nistrantamte mukam bhojadyajaha bhagavanajaha putrebhyo brugumukhebhyo devyecha bhagavan bhavaha. Etadvai sarvavarnana ashramanam cha samuttamam shreyasam uttamam manye Sri Sudranam cha manada. O most magnanimous Lord, the instructions on this process of deity worship first emanated from your lotus mouth. Then they were spoken by the great Lord Brahma to his sons, headed by Bhrigu, and by Lord Shiva to his wife Parvati. This process is accepted by and appropriate for all the occupational and spiritual orders of the society. Therefore, I consider worship of you in your deity form to be the most beneficial of all spiritual practices even for women and Shudras. That's what Uddhava is telling. Now, etat kamala patraksha karma bandha vimochanam bhaktaya chanuraktaya bruhi vishveshwareshwaraha. O lotus-eyed one, O Supreme Lord of all lords of the universe, please explain to your devoted servants and all the devotees this means of liberation from the bondage of work. Bhagavan Vacha, Shloka number 6. Nahantyo nantaparasya karma khandyasya choddhavaha sankshiptam varnayishyami sankshiptam varna ishtami tata vanana purvashaha yatana varvada purvashaha. Supreme Personality of Godhead says, my dear Uddhava, there is no end to the innumerable Vedic prescriptions for executing deity worship. So I shall explain this topic to you briefly, one step at a time. Lord Krishna says, my dear Uddhava, there is no end to the innumerable Vedic prescriptions for executing deity worship. So I shall explain this topic to you briefly, one step at a time. Here the word Karmakanda refers to the various Vedic methods of worship, culminating in deity worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as the means of sense gratification and material renunciation are innumerable, the transcendental pastimes and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead enjoys in his own abode called Vaikuntha are also innumerable. The various concepts of deity, piety, and methods of purification in the material world ultimately cannot be reconciled amongst themselves without accepting the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, since without appreciation of him, there is no definitive understanding of what is actually obligatory for a human being. Even though almost all human beings are engaged in various processes of worship, the Lord will now summarize this topic, describing how one should worship him in his deity form in both temple or in his own prayer room. Shloka starts number 7. Bhagavan Lord Krishna continued, Vaidikastantriko Mishra iti me trivado mukha trayanami psetene aiva vidinamam samarchayet. One should carefully worship me by selecting one of the three methods by which I receive sacrifice, Vedic, Tantric, or mixed. Vedic way of worship is the best one what we follow. Vaidika refers to the sacrifice performed with mantras from the 4 Vedas and auxiliary Vedic literatures. Tantrika refers to such literatures as the Pancharatra and Chaitanya and Gautamya Tantra. Tantrikas refers to such literatures as the Pancharatra and Gautamiya Tantra. And mixed indicates utilization of both literatures. It should be remembered that the superficial imitation of elaborate Vedic sacrifices will not bring one the actual perfection of life. One must perform sacrifice according to the prescription of the Supreme Lord, who recommends for this age the chanting of his glory, holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yada swanigamenoktam yujatvam prapya purushaha yata yujate mam bhakta shraddhayetan nibodhaye. Now please listen faithfully as I explain exactly how a person who has achieved twice born status through the relevant Vedic prescription should worship me with devotion. Now please, Lord Krishna starts telling twice born, that is Dvija. Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishyas are called twice born status, Dvijas. The Vedic in prescription should worship me with devotion. The word Swanigamena refers to the particular Vedic injunctions relevant to one's social and occupational status. Members of the Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya communities all achieve Dvijatvam, twice born status, by initiation into the Gayatri Mantra at the time of Upanayana. Traditionally, fully qualified Brahmana boys may be initiated at the age of 8, Kshatriyas at 11, Vaishyas at 11 or 12, provided the proper conditions are met. Having achieved twice born status, one should faithfully worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form of the Deity as the Lord himself is described. So first of all, the people has to attain Dvijatva and chant Gayatri sadhana. The word Swanigamena refers to the particular Vedic injunctions relevant to one social and occupational status. Members of the Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishyas communities all achieve Dvijatvam, twice born status, by initiation into the Gayatri Mantra during the Upanayana ceremony. Traditionally, fully qualified Brahmanas boys may be initiated at the age of 8, Kshatriyas at 11, and Vaishyas at 12, provided the proper conditions are met. Having achieved twice born status, one should faithfully worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form of the Deity as the Lord himself will describe. Sloka number 9. This is also very important. Acharyam standile gnauva surye vapsa hridi dvidhe dravyena bhakti yog torchet swagurum mamamaraya swagurum mamamaya. A twice born person should worship me, his worshipable Lord, without duplicity, offering appropriate paraphernalia in loving devotion to my deity form or to form of me appearing upon the ground, in fire, in the sun, in water, or within the worshipper's own heart. Twice born person should worship me, his worshipable Lord, without duplicity, offering appropriate paraphernalia in loving devotion to my deity form or to a form of me appearing upon the ground, in fire, in the sun, in water, or within the worshipper's own heart. Purvam snanam prakurvita dauto dhanto angashuddhaye ubairapi cha snanam mantrair karmad grahanadina. Fixing the mind on me. So we have to fix the mind on the Lord Vishnu or Krishna or Venkateshwara, whoever deity we are doing. One should worship me by his various prescribed duties, such as chanting the Gayatri Mantra at the 3 junctions of the day. Such performances are enjoined by the Vedas and purify the worshipper of reactions to fruitive activities. So, Lord Krishna said, it is the practice of Gayatri Mantra at the 3 junctions of the day, Pratat Sandhya, Madhyanika Sandhya, and Sayam Sandhya. There are 3 junctions of the time, before sunrise and the midday of the sun and just before the sunset. These are the 3 sandhyas. Gayatri Mantra should be chanted before you qualify for doing deity worship. The Lord Krishna says you have to do it. Fixing on mind, one should worship me by his various prescribed duties. These are the prescribed duties. Such performance are enjoined by the Vedas and purify the worshipper of reactions to fruitive activities. Shaili darumayi lohi lepya lekya cha sakruti manomayi manimayi pratimashta vidasprutha. Now Lord Krishna is telling the deity form of the Lord is said to appear in 8 varieties. It could be stone, it could be wood, it could be metal, it could be earth, it could be painting, it could be by sand, the mind, or jewels. Srila Jiva Goswami explains, that certain deity forms, such as those made up of sand, are manifested for a brief time to fulfill a personal desire of the worshipper. Those, however, who desire to attain a pure love of God should worship the permanent form of the deity made, for instance, a marble, gold, or a brass, and they should maintain continual worship. In Krishna consciousness, there is no scope for neglect in the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Vedic consciousness also, there is no scope for neglecting the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It could be stone, it's granite. Not a marble, it's a granite. We have to make abhisheka, it has to be a granite stone, black color stone for a deity which can be given abhisheka puja. And they should maintain continual worship. In Krishna consciousness, there is no scope for neglecting the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there are 8 types of pratimes. The deity could be 8. It could be a stone, granite, it could be wood, it could be mud, it could be atava gandhaddu, chitra ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದದ್ದು, painting, and all in written in the sand, manomayi, manimayi. So in mind itself we can do, and manis also we can do, and these are the 8 type of deity worship Lord Krishna will accept that. Shaili means Shila. The word Shaili comes from the word Shila. It could be Saligrama also. That's the Shila also. Like that. The deity form of the Lord, who is the shelter of all living entities, can be established in 2 ways, temporary or permanently. But a permanent deity, having been called, can never be sent away, my dear Uddhava. The devotee of the Lord understands themselves to be the Lord's eternal servitors. Recognizing the deity to be the Lord himself, they permanently install the deity of the engaged in perpetual worship. The impersonalists, however, regard the eternal form of the Lord as a temporary manifestation of illusion. In fact, they regard the deity form as a mere stepping stone in their ambitions to program to become God himself. Materialistic persons of whatever stripe consider the Lord to be their order supplier, and so they make temporary arrangements for religious ceremonies to achieve temporary material sense gratification. This temporary mode of worship is favored by those desiring to exploit the personality of Godhead and their personal ends, whereas the living devotees in Krishna consciousness eternally engage in worship of the personality of Godhead. They install permanent deities meant to be worshipped perpetually. Astirayam vikalpastwantandile swatkandile tubhadvayam swapanam tvavelepyaya manyatra parimarjanam. The deity that is temporarily established can optionally be called forth and sent away. But these 2 rituals should always be performed when the deity is traced upon the ground. Bathing should be done with water except if the deity is made of clay, paint, or wood, in which cases a thorough cleansing up without water is enjoined. The deity that is temporarily established can optionally be called forth and sent away, but these 2 rituals should always be performed when the deity is traced upon the ground. Bathing should be done with water except if the deity is made of clay, paint, or wood, in which case through thorough cleansing without water is enjoined. Various classes of devotees worship the deity of the personality of Godhead according to their various stages of faith in the Lord. An advanced devotee of the Lord Krishna understands his eternal loving relationship with the Lord, and seeing the deity as the Lord himself establishes an eternal relationship with the deity based on loving servitude to him. Understanding Lord Krishna to be the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, a faithful devotee makes a permanent arrangement for deity worship. installing the Lord's form of made of either the granite, stone, wood, or marble with mantras or ask the deity to leave. On the other hand, if one prepares a deity form by drawing on sanctioned ground or by constructing a sand image, one must call the deity with mantras and then ask the deity to leave the external form, which will soon be demolished by the natural elements. In general, principle is that a pure devotee of the Lord understands his relationship with the deity to be eternal. The more one surrenders in loving devotion to the deity, the more one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna is a person, but he is the Supreme Person possessing his own unique feelings. One can easily please the Lord by devotional service offered to his deity form. By pleasing the Lord, one can gradually progress in the mission of human life and eventually go back home, back to Godhead, to Vaikuntha, where the deity personally appears before the devotee, and welcomes the devotee to his personal abode, known throughout the world as the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha. Draive prasiddhamardhaga pratimadishtamayinah bhakti sachayatalabdhargati bhavena chaivahi. One should worship me in my deity forms by offering the most excellent paraphernalia. But a devotee completely freed from material desire may worship me with whatever he is able to obtain and may even worship me within his heart with mental paraphernalia. Devotee still troubled by material desire tends to see the world as an object of sense gratification. Such a neophyte devotee may misunderstand the Lord's supreme position and may even consider the Lord an object of his own enjoyment. Hence, the neophyte must offer opulent paraphernalia to the deity so that he may constantly remember that deity is the supreme enjoyer and that he, the neophyte, is simply, in contrast, an advanced devotee. One fixed in Krishna consciousness never forgets that the Supreme Personality of Lord Krishna is the actual enjoyer and controller of everything. The pure devotee is unalloyed love to the personality of Godhead Krishna, along with whatever paraphernalia is easily obtained. A Krishna consciousness devotee does not waver in his devotion to Krishna, and even with the simplest offering, he completely satisfies the personality of Godhead. Snanalayam preshtamacharyamayva udbhavaha standile tattva vinyaso magna vyajya plutam havi. (16th and 17th). In worshipping the temple deity, my dear Uddhava, bathing and decoration are the most pleasing offerings. For the deity traced on sacred ground, the process of tattva vinyasa is most clear. Oblations of sesame and barley soaked in the ghee are the preferred offering to the sacrificial fire, whereas the worship consisting of upasthana and arghya is preferred for the sun. One should worship me in the form of water by offering water itself. Actually, whatever is offered to me with the faith and by my devotee, even if only a little water, is most dear to me. So what Krishna is expecting, devotees should concentrate their mind and to only think of Krishna and nothing else. Only God, Supreme Personality of Godhead, is present everywhere, and Vedic culture prescribes various ritualistic methods for worshipping the Lord in his various manifestations. The principal item is the faith and devotion of the worshipper, without which everything else is useless, as Lord describes in this next verse. Even Very opulent presentations do not satisfy me if they are offered by non-devotees. Even very opulent presentations do not satisfy me if they are offered by non-devotees. But I am pleased by any insignificant offering made by my loving devotees, and I am certainly most pleased when nice presentations of fragrant oil, incense, flowers, and palatable foods are offered with me with love. After cleansing himself and collecting the paraphernalia, the worshipper should arrange his own seat with blades of kusha grass whose tips point eastward. He should then sit facing either east or north, or else, if the deity is fixed in one place, he should sit directly facing the deity. The word sambrata sambhara means that before beginning the deity worship, one should place all necessary paraphernalia nearby. In this way, one will not have to get up continuously to search for something, different items, if the deity has been permanently installed. Then one should sit facing the deity. The devotee should sanctify the various parts of his body by touching them and chanting mantras. He should do the same for my deity forms, and then with hands he should clean the deity or old flowers of the remnants of the previous offerings. He should properly perhaps the sacred pot and a vessel containing water for sprinkling. The devotee should sanctify the various parts of his body by touching them and chanting mantras. This is called Anganyasa, Karanyasa. Angushtabhya namaha, Tarjinabhya namaha, Madhyamabhya namaha, like this, Karanyasa. And then Anganyasa. Om Hridayaya namaha, Shirase namaha, Shikaya Vishito, Kyochaya Hum, Jyotishthamatmane Tatreva, Astraya Pato, Purbo Suratadik Bandha. This is called Anganyasa and Karanyasa. That's why devotees should sanctify the various parts of the body by touching them and chanting the mantras. He should do the same for my deity. Lord Krishna is saying we have to do Anganyasa Karanyasa for deity also. And then with his hands, he should clean the deity of old flowers and the remnants of previous offerings. He should properly prepare the sacred pot and a vessel containing water for sprinkling. Before beginning the process of worship mentioned here, one should offer obeisances to one spiritual master, the deity, and other worshipable personalities. Then, with water of that prokshaniya vessel, we got a panchapatra in the silver one, use that water, prokshaniya vessel. He should sprinkle the area where the deity is being worshipped, the offerings that are going to be presented, and his own body. Next, he should decorate with various auspicious substances 3 vessels filled with water. Srila Sridhara Swami gives the references of the Vedic literature, starting that the water meant for bathing the feet should be combined with the millet seeds, durva grass mixed in water, Vishnukranta flowers, and other items. The water used for arghya should include the following 8 items. Water used for arghya should include the following 8 items: fragrant oil, flowers, unbroken barley corns, husked barley corns, the tips of kusha grass, sesame seeds, mustard seeds, and durva grass. The water for spring slipping should include jasmine flowers, ground cloves, and cocoa berries. The worshipper should then purify these 3 vessels. He should sanctify the vessel holding water for washing the Lord's feet, chanting Hadaya Namo, the vessel containing water for Argya by chanting Shirse Swaha, and the vessel containing water for washing the Lord's mouth by chanting Chikeyavana. Also, the Gayatri mantra should be chanted for all the three vessels. The worshipper should meditate upon me, subtle form which is situated within the worshipper's own body, now purified by air and fire, as the source of all divine living entities. This form of the Lord is experienced by self-realized sages in the last part of the vibration of the sacred syllable Om. According to Sri Sridhar Swami, the pranava of Onkara, pranava or Onkara has 5 parts: A, U, Ma, the nasal bindu, and the reverberation nada. Liberated souls meditate upon the Lord at the end of that reverberation. Tayatma bhutaya pinde praptam sampuja tanmayah avyayarchidishu swapan sastango mam prapujahet. The devotee conceives of the super soul whose presence surcharges the devotee's body in the form of corresponding to his realization. Thus, the devotee worships the Lord to his full capacity and becomes fully absorbed in him by touching the various limbs of the deity and chanting appropriate mantras. The devotee should invite this super soul to join the deity's form, and then the devotee should worship me. The body of a devotee is pervaded by the Supreme Lord, just as a house is pervaded by the glow of lamp. Just as one gestures in a friendly way to indicate that a guest should enter in one's house, one touches the body of the deity, chants appropriate mantras, and enthusiastically invites the super soul to enter the form of the deity. Since both the deity and the super soul are the supreme personality of Godhead, they are not different. One from the Lord can immediately become manifest in another. The worshipper should first imagine my seat as decorated with the personified deities of religion, knowledge, renunciation, and opulence, and with my 9 spiritual energies. He should think of the Lord's sitting place as an 8-petaled lotus, effulgent on account of the saffron filaments within its whorl. Then, following the regulations of both Vedas and Tantras, he should offer me water for washing the feet, water for washing the mouth, argya, and other items of worship. By this process, he achieves both material enjoyment and liberation. The worshipper, the devotees, by doing this process, achieves both material enjoyment and liberation. According to Sri Sridhar Swami, religion, knowledge, renunciation, and opulence are the legs of the Lord's sitting platform and occupy the 4 corners, beginning with the southeast. Irreligion, ignorance, attachment, and wretchedness are the intermediate legs standing in the 4 directions, beginning with the east. The 9 Shaktis or potencies of the Lord are Vivala, Utkarshini, Jnana, Kriya, Yoga, Prahvi, Satya, Ishana, and Anugraha. One should worship in order the Lord's Sudarshana disc, his Panchajanya conch, his club, sword, bow, arrows, and plough, his Manala weapon, his Kaustubha gem, his flower garland, and the Srivatsa curl of hair in his chest. One should worship the Lord's associates of Nanda, Sunanda, Garuda, and Prachanda, and Chanda, Mahabala, and Bala, and Kumuda, and Kumudakshena. We have to worship all the associates of the Lord. With offerings such as Prokshaniya, one should worship Durga, Vinayaka, Vyasa Maharshi, Vishwaksena, the spiritual masters, and various other gods. All these personalities should be in their proper places in facing the deity of the Lord. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Ganesha and Durga mentioned in this verse are not the same personalities present within the material world. Rather, they are eternal associates of the Lord in Vaikuntha. In this world, Ganesha, the son of Lord Shiva, is famous for awarding financial success, and the goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, is famous as the external illusory potency of the Supreme Lord Maya, Supreme Lord Krishna. The personalities mentioned here, however, are eternally liberated associates of the Lord who reside in the spiritual sky beyond the material modifications. Srila Jiva Goswami quotes from the various Vedic literatures to prove that the name Durga may also indicate the internal potency of the Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami quotes from various Vedic literatures to prove that the name Durga may also indicate the internal potency of the Lord, who is not different from him. The external or covering potency of the Lord expands from this original Durga. The Durga of the material world, called Mahamaya, assumes the function of bewildering the living entities. Thus, a devotee should not fear becoming polluted by worshipping of Durga, mentioned here, who has the same name as illusion, but rather the devotee must show respect to these eternal servitors of the Supreme Lord of Vaikuntha. The worshipper should bathe the deity every day as opulently as his assets permits, using waters scented with sandalwood, ushara root, camphor, kumkum, and aguru. He should also chant various Vedic hymns such as Anuvaka, known as Swaragharma, the Mahapurusha Purana Vidya, and Purusha Sukta, and various songs of Samaveda such as Rajana and Roneha. But usually the important for Venkateshwara and Lord Krishna and Lord Rama are Purusha Sukta and Sri Sukta for Mahalakshmi. These are the things we have to chant when you are doing the Abhisheka. The Purusha Sukta prayer beginning Om Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad, contained within the Rigveda. It also comes in Yajurveda and Samaveda also a little bit. The Purusha Sukta is very auspicious prayer to Lord Krishna. My devotee should then lovingly decorate me with clothing, Brahmana thread, various ornaments, marks, tilaka, and garlands, and he should anoint my body with the fragrant oils, all in the prescribed manner. Sridhara Swami quote Lord Sri Vishnu's instructions to Ambrisha Maharaja in the Vishnu Dharma, Upa Purana, Vishnu Dharma Upa Purana, as follows: absorbing your mind completely in the deity, you should give up all other shelter and consider the deity your ultimate intimate well-wisher. You should mentally worship him and meditate upon him while you walk, while you stand, while you sleep and eat. You should see the deity in front of you, behind, above, below, and on both sides. In this way, you should constantly remember my deity form. In the Gautamiya Tantra, one is enjoined to give the deity of the Lord as a Brahma thread, sacred thread. Upavitam, if possible, one made of gold or in silver. In the Narasimha Purana, it is stated if one offers the Lord Govinda a yellow sacred thread containing the 3 strands of silk, he will become an expert in Vedanta. In the Gautamiya Tantra, one is enjoined to give the deity of the Lord a Brahmana thread, that is sacred thread. If possible, one made of gold. In the Nrsimha Purana, it is stated, if one offers to God Govinda a yellow sacred thread containing the 3 strands of silk, he will become an expert in Vedanta. The worshipper should faithfully present me with water for washing my feet and mouth, fragrant oils, flowers, and unbroken grains, along with the incense lamps and other offerings. Within his means, the devotee should arrange to offer me sugar candy, sweet rice, ghee, chakule, rice flour cakes, upupa, various sweet cakes, modaka, steamed rice flour dumplings filled with the sweet coconut and sugar. Sayava, white cakes made with ghee and milk and covered with sugar and spices. Yogurt, vegetables, soups, and other palatable foods. One can require detailed information of proper and improper foods to offer in deity worship by consulting Sri Haribhakta Vilasa, 8th Vilasa verses. On special occasions and daily if possible, the deity should be massaged with ointment, shown a mirror, offered eucalyptus stick or brushing his teeth, bathed with 5 kinds of nectar, offered all kinds of opulent foods, and entertained with singing and dancing. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura describes the process of deity worship is as follows. First, the deity's teeth should be cleaned and his body massaged with fragrant oil and by rubbed with vermilion, camphor, powder, and so forth. Then he should be bathed with fragrant water and the 5 kinds of nectar. Next, one should offer valuable silk garments and jeweled ornaments to the deity, smear his body with sandalwood paste, and offer him garlands and other gifts. After this, one should hold a mirror in front of the deity and then offer fragrant oil, flowers, incense, lamps, and scented water for refreshing the mouth. One should offer all type of palatable foods, fragrant water, betel nuts, and garlands, and dhrati, lamps. After this, one should hold a mirror in front of the deity and then offer fragrant oil, flowers, incense, lamps, scented water for refreshing the mouth. One should offer all types of palatable foods, fragrant water, betel nuts, garlands, arati, lamps, a bed to rest on, and so on. One should also fan the deity and perform instrumental music, singing and dancing. This deity worship must be performed on special occasions like religious holiday, or else if one can afford it daily. According to Srila Visidhara Swami, Ekadashi is an appropriate day for performing special deity worship. In an area constructed according to scriptural injunctions, the devotee should perform a fire sacrifice, that is yajna, homa. In an arena constructed according to scriptural injunctions, the devotee should perform a fire sacrifice, yajna, utilizing the sacred belt, the sacrificial pit, and the altar mound. When igniting the sacrificial fire, the devotee should bring it ablaze with wood piled up by his own hands. After spreading kusha grass on the ground and sprinkling it with water, one should perform the anvadana ritual according to the prescribed rules. Then one should arrange the items to be offered as oblations and should sanctify them with water from the sprinkling vessel. The worshipper should next meditate upon me within the fire. Srila Jiva Goswami mentions that one should meditate upon the Lord as the super soul within the sacrificial fire. The intelligent devotee should meditate upon that form of the Lord whose color is like a molten gold, whose four arms are respondent within the conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower, and who is always peaceful and dressed in a garment color like the filaments within the lotus flower. His helmet, bracelets, belt, and fine arm ornaments shine brilliantly. The symbol of Srivatsa on his chest, along with the glowing Kaustubamani and garland of forest flowers. The devotee should then worship that Lord by taking piece of firewood soaked in the sacrificial ghee and throwing them into the fire. He should perform the ritual of agara, presenting into the fire the various items of oblation drenched in ghee. He should then offer to 16 demigods, 16 gods, beginning with Yamaraja, the oblation called Svinokat, reciting basic mantras of each deity, and the 16-line Purusha Sukta hymn, pouring one oblation for each line of the Purusha Sukta. He should utter the particular mantra naming each deity. So Krishna says we have to offer 16 gods beginning with Yamaraja. The oblation called Swinokat, reciting the basic mantras of each deity and the 16-line Purusha Sukta hymn, pouring the oblation after each line of the Purusha Sukta. He should utter the particular mantra naming each deity. Having thus worshipped the Lord in the sacrificial fire, the devotee should offer his obeisances to the Lord's personal associates by bowing down and should then present offerings to them. He should then chant quietly the Mula Mantra of the deity, of the Lord, remembering the absolute truth as the Supreme Personality Narayana. Once again, he should offer the deity water for washing his mouth, and he should give the remnants of the Lord's food to Vishaksena. Then he should present the deity with fragrant perfumes of the mouth and prepared betel nut. Singing along with others, chanting loudly and dancing, acting out by my traditional transcendental pastimes. Singing along with others, chanting loudly and dancing, acting out my transcendental pastimes, and hearing and telling stories about me. The devotee should for some time absorb himself in such a festivity. A devotee engaged in regulative worship of the Supreme Lord should sometimes become ecstatically absorbed in chanting and hearing the pastimes of the Lord, dancing and other festivities. The word muhurtam for some time indicates that a devotee should be careful not to neglect his regulative principles and service to the Lord in the name of so-called ecstasy. Although one may be ecstatically engaged in chanting, hearing, and dancing, he cannot give up the formality of regulated service to the Lord. स्तवैराच्युवच्चै स्तोत्रै पौराणे प्राकृतैरपि स्तुत्वा प्रसीद भगवन्नितनन्दे तदण्डवत्. The devotees should offer homage to the Lord with all kinds of hymns and prayers, both from the Puranas and from other ancient scriptures, and also from ordinary traditions, praying, "O Lord, please be merciful to me." He should fall down flat like a rod to offer his obeisances. Sashtanga Namaskara. What we say? Lie down flat on your chest and touch all the 8 parts of the body, including the nose and the forehead. Okay, Sashtanga Namaskara. 8 parts of the body makes Sashtanga Namaskara. Shiromat padayo krutva bahubhyam cha parasparam prapannam pahi ma Misha Bhitam Mrittigrahanavat. Placing his head at the feet of the deity, he should then stand with folded hands before the Lord and pray, "O my Lord, please protect me, who am surrendered unto you. I am most fearful of this ocean of material existence, standing as I am in the mouth of death." Praying in this way, the devotee should respectfully place upon his head the remnants I offer to him. And if the particular deity is meant to be sent away at the end of the worship, then this should be performed. The devotee once again placing the light of the deity's presence inside the light of the lotus within this own heart. Archadishu yada yatra shraddha man tatra charsayet sarvabhuteshvatmani cha sarvatmaha vastitaha. Whenever one develop faith in me, in my form as a deity, or in other bona fide manifestations, one should worship me in that form. I certainly exist both within all created beings and also separately in my original form, since I am the supreme soul of all. Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped according to the faith. A particular worshipper, the deity form, Archa, is specifically mentioned here because deity worship is essential for spiritual progress. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura mentions that inexperienced persons may think that the deity is meant for the sense gratification of the worshipper. Since superficially the deity is made of externally substances such as marble or a brass or a stone, but through the process of installing the deity by chanting the authorized mantras, one invites the Supreme Personality of Godhead to enter the deity form. By regulated faithful worship, one gradually understands that the deity is completely non-different from the Supreme Lord himself. At that stage, on the strength of the deity worship, one rises to the second-class platform of devotional service. At this at this more developed stage, one desires to make friendship with other devotees of the Lord, and as one becomes solidly established in the community of Vaishnavas, one completely gives up material life and gradually becomes perfect in Krishna consciousness. एवं क्रिया योग पथै पुमान् वैदिक तांत्रिकै अर्चिन्न भयतं सिद्धिं मत्तो विन्द्यते वीप्सिताम्. By worshipping me through the various methods prescribed in the Vedas and Tantras, one will gain from me his desired perfection in both this life and the next. The devotee should more fully establish my deity by solidly constructing a temple along with the beautiful gardens. These gardens should be set aside to provide flowers for the regular daily worship, special deity processions, and holiday observations. Wealthy, pious person should be engaged in constructing the temple and gardens for the pleasure of the deity. The word dridham indicates that the most solid means of construction should be employed. Dridham. Pujadinam pravahartam महापर्वस्त्वस्थानमहं क्षेत्रपण पुरग्रामान् दत्वा मत्साष्टितामयात् प्रतिष्ठया सार्वभौमं पद्मनां भुवनत्रयं पूजादिने ब्रह्मलोकं त्रिवर्मत्सामत्तामयात्. The devotee should more fully establish my deity by solidly constructing a temple along with the beautiful gardens. These gardens should be set aside to provide flowers for the regular daily worship, special deity processions, and holiday observations. One who offers the deity gifts of land, markets, cities, and villages so that the regular daily worship and special festivals of the deity may go on continually will achieve opulence equal to my own. One who offers the deity gifts of land, market, cities, and villages so that the regular daily worship and special festivals of the deity may go on continually will achieve opulence equal to my own. By placing tracts of land in the deity's name, there will be regular income for opulent deity worship, both from rent and from agriculture production. A worshipper may make the arrangements mentioned above will certainly achieve opulence like that of the personality of Godhead. Oh my God, Krishna. प्रतिष्ठया सार्वभौमं सद्मना भुवनत्रयं पूजादिने ब्रह्मलोकं त्रिभिर्मत्साम्यातमायात्. By installing the deity of the Lord, one becomes king of the entire earth. By installing the deity of the Lord, one becomes the king of the entire earth. By building a temple for the Lord, one becomes ruler of the three worlds. By worshipping and serving the deity, one goes to the planet of Lord Brahma, and by performing all three of these activities, one achieves the transcendental form like my own. By installing the deity of the Lord, one becomes king of entire earth. By building a temple for the Lord, one becomes ruler of the three worlds. By worshipping and serving the deity, one goes to the planet of Lord Brahma, and by performing all three of these activities, one achieves a transcendental form like my own. But one who simply engages in devotional service with no consideration of fruitive results attains me. Thus, whoever worships me according to the process I have described will ultimately attain pure devotional service unto me. The previous two verses were spoken by the Lord to attract those interested in fruitive results. And now the ultimate purpose of worshipping the Lord is described. The ultimate goal in life is Lord Krishna himself or Lord Vishnu himself. Love for the Lord is the highest bliss, although ordinary people cannot understand this. Yam sudattam paraidattam hareta suruprayo vrittim sajayate vishvudharna vidbudvarshanamayatam. Anyone who steals the property of the gods and brahmanas, whether originally given to them by himself or someone else, must live as a worm in the stool for 100 million years. ದೇವ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರಿಗೆ ತಾನು ಕೊಟ್ಟ ಉಂಬಳೆಯನ್ನಾಗಲಿ ಇದ್ರೂ ಕೊಟ್ಟ ಉಂಬಳೆಯನ್ನಾಗಲಿ ಅಪಹರಿಸುವನು ಕೋಟ್ಯಾಂತರ ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಗೆ ಅಮೇಧದಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೆಯಾಗುತ್ತಾನೆ. This is a very serious allegations or a warning Lord Krishna is giving. Anyone who steals the property of the gods or the brahmanas, whether originally given to them by himself or someone else, must live as a worm in stool for 100 million years. The people should understand this and respect the God's property. Both money and everything belongs to the temple should be respected. Kartushchu sarathereto rumodiratarvecha karmanam bhaginam pretya bhuyo bhuyasi tatpalam. Not only the performer of the theft, but also anyone who assists him, instigates the crime, or simply approves of it must also share the reaction in the next life. According to their degree of participation, they suffer proportionate consequences. Stealing paraphernalia meant for worshipping the Supreme Lord or its unauthorized or its authorized representatives should be avoided at all cost. Stealing paraphernalia meant for worshipping the Supreme Lord or his authorized representatives should be avoided at all cost. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 11th canto, the 27th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Krishna's Instructions on the Process of Deity Worship. 27ನೇ ಅಧ್ಯಾಯ ಮುಗಿಯಿತು. ಇತಿ ಶ್ರೀಮದ್ ಭಾಗವತೆ ಮಹಾಪುರಾಣೆ ಪಾರಮಹಂಸಾಂ ಸಂಹಿತಾಂ ಏಕಾದಶ ಸ್ಕಂದೋ ಸಪ್ತಂಶೋಧ್ಯಾಯ. ಹರಿ ಓಂ. नमोस्तु अनंताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादाक्षरो बाहुहे सहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषाष्टे सहस्रकोटि युगधारिणे नमः. सहस्रकोटि युगधारिणे नमः. आकाशात् पतितं यथागत सागरं सर्वदेव नमस्कारः. श्रीकेशं प्रजत्यो नमः. सर्ववेदेशत् पुण्यं सर्वतीर्थेषु यत्फलं तत्फलं पुण्वाप्तो वासनात् वासुदेवस्य वासन्ते जगत्त्रयं सर्वभूतनिवासोऽसि वासुदेवनमस्ते कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्धात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभाव करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. हरि ओम्.